Hello, pproteus here, back from round 3 of the Pauper challenge. I'm going to start off with Mineral Sentinel. I don't know what my opponent's on. Island doesn't really help me. I'm going to Ranker, and I might get Vapor snagged. Nope, no Vapor snag. Okay. Take 4. My opponent taps out. I'm getting Elephant Guide down. Oh, they're on Tron. Well, this mana looks like Prohibit. So we're going to play around Prohibit. They could also have Condescend. Shoot. I guess I can't play around both Prohibit and Condescend. That sucks. I should have thought of that earlier. Alright, well, they don't have Prohibit. You know what, let's do it. I will get Condescended. Because I can't really play around Condescend at all. I mean, I guess I can just do nothing. But my opponent has like 2 Condescends in their deck. What's the probability that there's a Condescend in their opening hand? Not particularly high. They probably don't, even though they're representing it. Once you factor in them playing an island on turn 1, island on turn 1 is just likely enough from this Tron deck that I'm not surprised at all. So they're going to want, at some point, to get some green mana and start fogging me, I think. Like, that's a fog, potentially. And I'm going to want to resolve Viridian Longbow. You can Condescend me, that's okay. Actually, I probably should have played around Condescend specifically. But, yeah, okay. Bam. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8, 9, 10, 11, that's lethal. Game? Okay. I didn't realize I was so far up. Maybe I shouldn't, maybe it was wrong to cast the Elephant Guide just because they could have had the Condescend. But they could easily just start a parade of fogs. And the reason why I cast the Elf pre-combat was not try to bail out a counterspell. It was just I wanted to have Groundswell up, so I needed to replay the land, and I didn't want to waste my mana because my opponent could conceivably have Condescend. And yeah, I didn't want to play around Condescend because that's lethal for them. Anyways, but I didn't think that far ahead. I didn't realize I actually had lethal. So I should be checking that. So tough matchup. Tough matchup. I have to decide what I want to be playing. Definitely want Vines. Yeah, so for some reason, Tron decks have been kind of gone in the leagues lately, so I really don't know what I want. My opponent's probably going to have a bunch of fogs. They're going to have, you know, like Trickery, maybe some life gain. But yeah, this is Dinrova Tron, and they're going to play this game of let's go get Moon's Piece number 2, and let's cast Pulse of Marasa. So, against this deck, I want to get as much on the board as I possibly can first few turns. I like River Boa. If River Boa gets past blockers, I like the Hungers. Elephant Guides are at least fine. Anything I would want Natural State for, it's possible, but probably not. Vault Scourges and Ledgewalkers are both kind of sketchy because they die to things that I don't want to open myself up to. Gutshot's not great. It's possible, like it's possible for me to get them with it, where I could arrange the game to a point where they are encouraged to not cast a fog because I might be holding up a pump spell, and then they don't fog, they go to 1, and then I Gutshot them. That sounds like a stretch. I haven't played against Tron enough to know whether that's going to work or not. I'm just going to start out 1 Mutagenic Growth and move on. Groundswell sounds good. Like, it was really good that game. This hand is not good. It needs more creatures. I can't keep this. That's fine. Sure. Alright, so this hand is not great, but I want to be doing things. My plan is that I do things and my opponent does things very slowly and falls behind and gets to like 5 life. That's my plan. The entirety of it. Because this is not a good hand. So maybe it's just totally wrong to keep that because I mean, I also can't just keep mulliganing. I just gotta hope I draw well. So, I've got this Hunger. I want to be able to use it effectively. I cast Nest Invader. I want Nest Invader to resolve so that I can Hunger next turn. If my opponent is holding up blue mana, I'm going to start casting spells pre-combat. Alright, here's a 3rd land. Yeah, I didn't want a 3rd land. Let's start with Kyrian Ranger. I want to encourage my opponent to cast Condescend so I can, Hunger on my... What do I want to target with Hunger? I have a Vines. That's important to know about. I guess I always have a 3rd mana, so I just play my land. Kyrian Ranger. Right, opponent's being difficult. I mean, they could just have nothing, but I don't want to get this Hunger countered. No, I changed my mind. I want a Vault Scourge. I still don't want to get the Hunger countered. I think my opponent has a counter. Maybe they're playing around Condescend. Do I Hunger here? I don't want to Hunger. I want to have Vines in case something I haven't thought of happens. Saying that is generally a bad sign, but I'm doing okay. Okay, so there's not a lot to think about here. I'm going to cast the River Boa. I expect my opponent to counter, and then I get to hunger. I mean, my opponent doesn't have an island, so they won't necessarily counter. Opponent let 2 Mole Drifters go. Alright, tapping out for me. They could have Tron next turn and just cast Dinrova. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm a little far from winning with Vines. But yeah, opponent plays a Dinrova, I Vines, save my creature. And there are draws that I can have that will just win me the game. Vines wins me the game. Groundswell wins me the game. Drew a land. Do I throw away Nest Invader for 2 damage? I don't think so. I kind of expect my opponent to cast Pulse and not interact with the Vault Scourge. I mean, if my opponent's digging for a Fog, then it is right to throw away Nest Invader for 2 damage. Mole Drifter. Okay. Mole Drifter is fine. Grotto's also fine. Opponent is holding up Fog. They're going to hold up Fog basically every turn for the rest of the game. That's okay. They're going to have to actually have a Fog. Again, maybe it's the right play. Actually, I really should have cast the Nest Invader pre-combat. Pulse. Yeah, that's why I wasn't throwing away my creatures. I was right. I was right. Probably gonna lose this game. Yeah, I think I've lost. Maybe I should have bluffed something by bouncing a land with Curing Ranger. That was probably a mistake. I guess I'm playing quickly if I'm making that kind of mistake. But the last time I played against Dinrova Tron in a challenge, the only time I did, the game went to time. So I don't like being behind on the clock. Ooh. Opponent is tapped out. I can kill a Dinrova. I can attack with both Nest Invaders. They have to block at least one. I get to kill it. But then I've got this 5/5 Nest Invader that just trades for Dinrova. So I think I'm reliant on the Vault Scourge to do that work instead. So I'm going to leave the Hunger in my hand. His opponent could have capsize. So I'll block like this to not get owned by that. But I don't want my opponent attacking me with the Dinrova Horror. That's pretty bad. It's pretty bad for me. Or maybe they've just got Pulse and they're trying to get it back. And that was... yeah, I'm not being very patient here. In my defense, the reason is that I basically lost the game. I'm having trouble coming up with scenarios where I win. But just has so much stuff here. I'm hoping they tap out. I'm just going to cast the Hunger. And get it countered and probably concede. Like, I can't beat anything in this position because my opponent's at 11. So maybe, going back to the earlier play, maybe I was supposed to not play around Pulse, because clearly I can't win this game. A big part of that was my opponent having also a Mull Drifter. Well, no, he didn't also have a Mull Drifter, he pulsed for the Mull Drifter. But at least a big part was the second Dinrova Horror. I thought that my guy was going to last a long time, and he did not. Alright, well, I'm going to get in for some damage here. Opponent's going to pulse, so I need many hits. I should probably just be bringing in all of my Ledgewalkers. Ledgewalker with counters on it is way better than Vault Script with counters on it because it's safe from the Dinrova Horror. Alright, here's that Dinrova Horror again. That's what I get for killing it. If I had taken it, then it'd be hitting me down to 20 right now, which is pretty bad. Is this a flicker? Or, another counter spell? The Axe one? Condescend? Yeah, I can't pay that. You got me. Alright, I lose this game. I'm going to go through the motions of the rest of this game because I am at 32, so it's going to take my opponent a little while to kill me and I don't like being behind the clock. So maybe I can catch up by a minute before the end of the game because my opponent will try to play around stuff. I mean, if my opponent has just all lands and I go Ledgewalker into Elephant Guide, something like that, it's possible for me to win, right? I can win that game. My opponent just draws 6 lands in a row. Vault Scourge into Elephant Guide may be better if my opponent has lands only. Another pulse. Oh boy. Yeah, so sometimes there's a very visceral feeling to how Magic games are going. And I think this visceral feeling has something to do with the perception of Tron and of Stompy. So, actually I don't want to attack, I want to trade for a horror. So, a lot of people say that Stompy is bad, and I think Stompy is bad in the sense that in the leagues it's overplayed. You can tech against it in the leagues and be correct, meaning it's worse than people give it credit for. I think that much is correct. But people seem to, I think there's a feeling that goes on over games like this where you see the Stompy player that's so helpless. But because it's easier to remember this game than to remember the last game where I just killed my opponent on turn 4. Right? There weren't very many interesting decisions that happened for my opponent that game. So this is not part of the game. The game ended on like the turn that my opponent cast a second Dinrova horror. This is just filler. And that was turn 7, 8. So reasonably comparable, I think. I think I've achieved my goal of catching up on the clock. Actually, I should just concede now. But I'll keep up with it. Keep up with the whatever this is. Just make them kill me. Yep, okay. Yeah, this isn't going to go to time. But I don't like being behind when I know that the actual games, can go on forever. And games in this matchup can actually go on forever because my opponent plays a fog. And so they didn't improve their board state. Well, they did maybe slightly. The game just went on another turn cycle, but they've got to spend their mana fogging instead of progressing, which stops them from running away. So sometimes that happens. Not always, but sometimes. So Ledgewalkers I want. Ledgewalker seems great in that particular scenario. Young Wolf is bad, and kind of mutagenic growth too. Okay, let's go. I'm ready. So I've got to go. My plan is draw a good hand and kill my opponent on turn 4 again. That's not a good hand. Mulligan. On the draw, I would probably keep this hand, because there's a decent chance of finding a 1-drop. This hand doesn't do anything. Mulligan. I need a land. Well, okay, this game did not really go anywhere. Maybe my opponent kept a... So that was unfortunate. I mean, I could have kept that 6-card hand. It's better than this, but was it correct? Was it correct to keep the 6-card hand? I don't know about that. It just doesn't sound right. I'm not going to play the Hunger because I want to have Morbid on when I cast Hunger. Also, which is probably just going to get countered. Alright, I'm really hoping my opponent does not have a counter, but honestly, I can't beat anything. I need my opponent to have a bad hand. I need my opponent to have all lands. None of them Tron lands. I can't play around Condescend. My opponent has twice as many cards as me already. I just have to hope that half of my opponent's cards aren't really cards because they can't interact with me. Yeah, okay, this game's over. That was anticlimactic. Well, changed my mind because I don't have the nettle. I've got to start getting in there. Maybe my opponent has all lands and doesn't do anything for the next 10 turns. Just makes 100 mana. And then loses. That's my plan. If they play the last spell in their hand, it's a Muldrifter. Oh no, teachings. Okay. Yeah. Teachings for crop rotation. Well, that's bad, because it means my opponent's hand isn't all land, that they're not teachings for action. Alright, so I think I have fast forwarded a little bit. As you can see, this game isn't going anywhere. Opponent has assembled Flicker Loop. Nothing interesting is going to happen in this game. We're done here.